time now for the Newsmaker, in which a fearless commentator speaks out on the big stories of the day. And tonight's Newsmaker is former Conservative Minister Ann Widdecombe. Now, it was reported today that senior Conservatives are concerned that they will be once again branded the nasty party following the latest news on migrant crossings. There is also a growing number of Tory ministers apparently backing plans to quit the European Convention on Human Rights. So, are the Conservatives just plain nasty with no regard for human rights? Good evening, Anne. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
And what do you make of this? Are the Tories really the nasty party?
No, of course they're not. I mean, that was a phrase used by the former and unlamented Prime Minister, Theresa May, when the Conservatives were in opposition, and she thought that was a way of currying favour. The Tory party has never been the nasty party, but what it has always been is the divided party. And those divisions are now really coming to the fore. There is a section of the party that is in tune with public opinion, which knows that people want the migrant crisis solved, and if that means coming out of ECHR, then so be it. If that is the answer to stopping the boats, then so be it. And there is nothing nasty, whatever, about trying to stop people entering a highly dangerous situation for no good reason other than the profit of the people who are making money out of this. And people are drowning. At the very best, they have a terrible journey. They come here. They are not immediately given British citizenship and given a job and all the rest of it. You know, the streets of London are not paved with gold. Now, there's nothing nasty about wanting to stop that. There's nothing nasty about wanting to stop the sheer pressure that all this is putting on schools, on transport, on health services. There's nothing nasty about that. But there has always been a section of the Tory party that wants to be Lib-Dem. And they are the people that we are now hearing from. So my message to the Tory party is fine. By all means, give up trying to solve the immigration problem. By all means, ditch any thought of coming out of ECHR, and Reform UK will do it all for you, mate.
But, Anne, don't you think, you talk about the people wanting the migrant crisis to be resolved, but some people disagree. And when people like Lee Anderson, politicians like Lee Anderson, come out and use quite brutal language, that's maybe got some ugly connotations if you go back a few decades. I love Lee Anderson myself. I think he's blunt, he's tough talking, but I just think language like, they should F off back to France, it's going to turn people away and push people away when you really want to bring people on board and support the efforts to solve the migrant crisis.
Well, actually, I disagree. I think that probably a large proportion of the population thought, thank heavens for that, when Lee Anderson said what they've been thinking for a very long time. Now, I wouldn't have used the verb in question, as I said earlier on this week on GBNews. I wouldn't have used that verb. But the sentiment, which is France is a perfectly safe country, they have chosen to leave that safe country. They have chosen not to apply for asylum there, but to try to get illegally into this country. And then they have the gall to complain about the fact that everything isn't to their satisfaction. Well, I think it's quite right to say, and I would probably phrase it, buzz off back to France.
And do you think this problem can be resolved without leaving the ECHR?
It's difficult to see how. Now, it is a fact that an awful lot of countries simply don't comply with rulings from the ECHR. And we Britain have a very, very good reputation for abiding by rulings. We're one of the highest percent of rulings that are actually observed by Britain. So, we could say, well, we're staying ECHR, but we're not going to take a blind bit of notice of this. And if you want to complain about that, well, look at Germany's record. of complying with rulings. Look at some other countries' records. Well, fine, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for Britain. We don't actually like your ruling. We're not going to comply with it. Now, that is another option, and it's less drastic than coming out altogether.
Well, that is an option that we could look at. I love the idea of Ann Widdecombe telling Britain to break the law. Ann, it's great to talk to you tonight. Thanks for joining us.